Surah 57. Al-Hadid. Context. Period of revelation. This is unanimously a Medinan surah, and a study of its subject matter shows that it was probably sent down sometime during the interval between the Battle of Uhud and the Truce of Hudaybiyah. This was the time when the tiny Islamic state of Medina had been hemmed in by the disbelievers, and the handful of the ill-equipped Muslims were entrenched against the combined power of entire Arabia. In this state, Islam not only stood in need of the sacrifice of life from its followers, but it also needed monetary help and assistance. In this surah, a forceful appeal has been made for the same. This view is further strengthened by verse 10, in which God has addressed the believers to the effect,
"Those of you who would spend and fight after the victory can never be equal to those who have spent and fought before the victory."
And the same is supported by the traditions that
Ibn Marduyah
has related on the authority of Anas,
a famous companion.
In respect to verse 16,
"Has the time not come for those who have believed that their hearts should become humbly submissive at the remembrance of God?"
He says that 17 years after the commencement of the revelation of the Quran, this verse was sent down to arouse the believers to action. Thus, it is thought that the period of the revelation of this surah falls between the 4th and 5th year after the migration, Hijrah. The theme and subject matter. The theme of this surah is to exhort the Muslims to spend in the cause of God. At the most critical juncture of the history of Islam, when it was engaged in a life-and-death struggle against Arab paganism, this surah was revealed to persuade the Muslims to make monetary sacrifices in particular, and to make them realize that Islam did not merely consist in verbal affirmation and some outward practices, but its essence and spirit is sincerity towards God and His religion. The faith of the one who was devoid of this spirit, and who regarded his own self and wealth as dearer to himself than God and His religion, was hollow and therefore of little worth in the sight of God. For this objective, first the attributes of God Almighty have been mentioned so that the listeners may fully realize as to who is addressing them. Then the following themes have been expressed in sequence. Number 1. The inevitable demand of the faith is that one should not avoid spending one's wealth for the sake of God. This would not only be contrary to the faith but also wrong realistically. For the wealth indeed belongs to God, on which man has been given proprietary rights only as his vicegerent. Yesterday this wealth was in other people's possession, today it is with one particular man, and tomorrow it will pass into someone else's hand. Ultimately, it will go back to God, who is the inheritor of everything in the universe. The only amount of wealth that will be of any use to a man is that amount which he spends in the cause of God during the period it is in his possession. Number 2. Although making sacrifices for the sake of God is commendable in any case, the true worth of these sacrifices is determined by the nature of the occasion. There is an occasion when the power of paganism is overwhelming, and there is a danger that it might subdue and overcome Islam completely. There is another occasion when Islam is in a stronger position in its struggle against disbelief, and the believers are attaining victories. Both these states are not equal as regards their respective importance. Therefore, the sacrifices that are made in these different states would also not be equal. Those who sacrifice their lives and expend their wealth to further promote the cause of Islam when it is already strong, cannot attain to the rank of those who struggled with their lives to promote and uphold the cause of Islam when it was weak. Number 3. Whatever is spent for the cause of the truth is alone on God, and God will not only return it increasing it manifold, but will also give from Himself the best reward for it. Number 4. In the hereafter, the light shall be bestowed only on those believers who would have spent their wealth in the cause of God. As for the hypocrites who watched and served only their own interests in the world, and who least bothered whether the truth or falsehood prevailed, will be segregated from the believers in the hereafter although they might have lived in close association with them in the world. They will be deprived of the light, and they will be counted among the disbelievers. Number 5. The Muslims should not behave like those followers of the earlier books, whose lives have been spent in the worship of the world, and whose hearts have become hardened due to negligence with the passage of time. He cannot be a believer whose heart does not melt at the remembrance of God, and does not bow to the truth sent down by Him. Number 6. The sincere upholders of the truth and the true witnesses of the faith in the sight of God are only those believers who spend their wealth in His way sincerely, without any desire of show. Number 7. The life of this world is only a short-lived spring, and a means of pride and show. Its sports and pastimes, its adornments and decorations, its pride of place, its wealth, and possessions, for which the people try to oppose with one another, are transient. Its likeness is of the crop which flourishes and blooms, then turns pale and then finally is reduced to chaff. The everlasting life is the life hereafter, when results of great consequence will be announced. Therefore, if one has to compete with another for something, one should strive for paradise. Number 8. Whatever good man meets with, and whatever hardship he suffers in the world, are preordained by God. A true believer is he who does not lose heart in affliction and is not puffed up with pride in good times. It is the character of a hypocrite and disbeliever that he is puffed up with pride when God favors him with His blessings, behaves boastfully and shows stinginess when called upon to spend in the cause of the same God who blessed him, and also counsels others to be stingy like himself. Number 9. God sent His messengers with clear signs and the book and the law of justice, so that the people may adhere to justice. Besides, He sent down iron also, so that power may be used to establish the truth and vanquish falsehood. Thus, God likes to see as to who from among the people would rise to support and aid His true religion, even at the risk of their lives. These opportunities God has created for man's own advantage and development. Otherwise, God does not stand in need of others for His works. Number 10. Prophets came from God in the past, and by their preaching, some people adopted the right path, but most of them persisted in wickedness. Then the prophet Jesus came, whose teachings brought about many moral improvements in the lives of the people, but his community invented monasticism. Now God has sent the prophet Muhammad. Those who affirm faith in him and pass their life fearing God's accountability, will be given by God a double share of His mercy, and He will bless them with the light by which they will see and walk the straight path. Among the crooked paths met with at every step in the life of this world. Although the followers of the earlier revelation regard themselves as the monopolists of God's bounties, the fact remains that God Himself controls His bounties. He may bless with these whomever He pleases. Surah 57. Al-Hadid. In the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful. Whatever is in the heavens and the earth, exalts God, and He is the exalted in might, the wise. His is the dominion of the heavens and the earth. He gives life and causes death, and He is over all things, competent. He is the first and the last, the manifest and the hidden, and He is, of all things, knowing. It is He who created the heavens and the earth in 6 days, and then established Himself above the throne. He knows what penetrates into the earth, and what emerges from it, and what descends from the heaven, and what ascends therein, and He is with you, wherever you are. And God, of what you do, is seeing. His is the dominion of the heavens and the earth. And to God are returned all matters. He causes the night to enter the day, and causes the day to enter the night, and He is knowing of that within the breasts. Believe in God and His messenger, and spend out of it in which He has made you successors. For those who have believed among you, and spent, there will be a great reward. And why do you not believe in God, while the messenger invites you to believe in your Lord? And He has taken your covenant, if you should truly be believers. It is He who sends down upon His servant Muhammad verses of clear evidence, that He may bring you out from darknesses into the light. And indeed God is to you, kind and merciful. And why do you not spend in the cause of God, while to God belongs the heritage of the heavens and the earth? Not equal among you, are those who spent before the conquest of Mecca and fought, and those who did so after it. Those are greater in degree than they who spent afterwards and fought. But to all, God has promised the best reward. And God, with what you do, is acquainted. Who is it that would loan God a goodly loan, so he will multiply it for him, and he will have a noble reward? On the day you see the believing men and believing women, their light proceeding before them, and on their right, it will be said, your good tidings today are of gardens beneath which rivers flow, wherein you will abide eternally. That is what is the great attainment. On the same day, the hypocrite men and hypocrite women will say to those who believed, wait for us, that we may acquire some of your light. It will be said, go back behind you and seek light. And a wall will be placed between them with the door, its interior containing mercy, but on the outside of it is torment. They, the hypocrites, will call to them, the believers, were we not with you? They will say, yes, but you afflicted yourselves, and awaited misfortune for us and doubted, and wishful thinking deluded you, until there came the command of God. And the deceiver, Satan, deceived you concerning God. So today no ransom will be taken from you, or from those who disbelieved. Your refuge is the fire. It is most worthy of you, and wretched is the destination. Has the time not come for those who have believed, that their hearts should become humbly submissive at the remembrance of God, and what has come down of the truth? And let them not be like those who were given the book before, and a long period passed over them, so their hearts harden, and many of them are defiantly disobedient. Know that God gives life to the earth, after its lifelessness. We have made clear to you the signs, perhaps you will understand. Indeed, the men who practice charity, and the women who practice charity, and they, who have loaned God a goodly loan, it will be multiplied for them, and they will have a noble reward. And those who have believed in God and his messengers, those are, in the ranks of, the supporters of truth and the martyrs, with their Lord, for them is their reward, and their light. But those who have disbelieved, and denied our verses, those are the companions of hellfire. Know that the life of this world is but amusement and diversion, and adornment and boasting to one another, and competition and increase of wealth and children. Like the example of the rain, whose resulting plant growth pleases the tillers, then it dries, and you see it turned yellow, then it becomes scattered debris. And in the hereafter is severe punishment, and forgiveness from God, and his pleasure. And what is the worldly life, except the enjoyment of delusion? Race, compete, toward forgiveness from your Lord, and a garden whose width is like the width of the heavens and the earth, prepared for those who believed in God and his messengers. That is the bounty of God which he gives to whom he wills, and God is the possessor of great bounty. No disaster strikes upon the earth or among yourselves, except that it is in a register, before we bring it into being. Indeed that, for God, is easy. In order that you not despair, over what has eluded you, and not exult in pride, over what he has given you. And God does not like everyone self-deluded, and boastful, those who are stingy and enjoin upon people stinginess. And whoever turns away, then indeed God, is the free of need, the praiseworthy. We have already sent our messengers with clear evidences, and sent down with them, the book and the balance, that the people may maintain their affairs in justice. And we sent down, created, iron, wherein is great military might, and benefits for the people, and so that God may make evident those who support him and his messengers, unseen. Indeed God is powerful and exalted in might. And we have already sent Noah, and Abraham, and placed in their descendants prophethood, and the book, and among them is he, who is guided, but many of them are defiantly disobedient. Then we sent in succession on their footsteps, our messengers, and we followed them with Jesus, the Son of Mary, and gave him the gospel. And we placed in the hearts of those who followed him compassion and mercy. And monasticism which they innovated, we did not prescribe it for them, except that they did so, seeking the pleasure of God. but they did not observe it with due observance. So, we gave the ones who believed among them their reward. But many of them are defiantly disobedient. O you, who have believed, fear God and believe in His messenger. He will then give you a double portion of His mercy, and make for you a light, by which you will walk and forgive you, and God is forgiving and merciful. This is so that the people of the book may know that they are not able to obtain anything from the bounty of God, and that all bounty is in the hand of God. He gives it to whom He wills, and God is the possessor of great bounty.